I'm Melanie. Welcome to the Dan Lab. Today we're talking about making solutions anaerobic using a gas manifold. You can also use an anaerobic chamber if you have access to one to make your solutions anaerobic, but the gas manifold allows you to do so without a chamber and pretty quickly. So I'll be doing this demonstration using serum bottles, but you can also use a Hungate tube, which is a strong glass-walled tube with a screw top cap and a stopper, and you puncture the stopper to access your liquid the same as the serum vial. Our gas manifold has a lot of parts, so I want to go through them with you quickly right now. So we have our gas of choice, usually nitrogen gas, in a tank, and a vacuum pump back here. You'll turn both of those on, and they are connected by tubing to a three-way valve, which allows you to toggle between these two functions. This three-way valve connects to another three-way valve here, which allows you to toggle between connecting both the gas tank and the vacuum pump to the outside air, or to a series of tubes which each have their own valve as well. All right, let's get started.
To begin, prepare the solutions that you wish to make anaerobic and aliquot them into clean tubes. Here we're using serum bottles, but as I mentioned, you can also use Hungate tubes. Leave at least 1/3 of the tube's volume unfilled. Next, add a stopper and a closure. For these serum bottles, we use blue rubber stoppers and a crimped aluminum ring to hold them in place. You may also use the thin red stoppers for bottles that you don't plan to puncture more than a few times, or where oxygen exposure is less of a concern. Once bottles and tubes are sealed, move them to the gas manifold and puncture the stopper in each one with the needles attached to the manifold. Replace any needles that are becoming blunt or bent with fresh, sharp needles. If your solutions and tubes are already sterile, you can change out the needle for a new sterile needle with a filter to maintain sterility. Turn the valve attached to the manifold so that the valve labeled vac and gas is set to vac. Turn the second valve so that the tanks and vacuum are connected to the tubes and sealed off from the outside air. Turn on the vacuum pump. If significantly less vacuum is being pulled, make sure that you don't have a valve open to the outside environment. We currently have one tank of 5% CO2 with balanced nitrogen and one tank of pure nitrogen attached to the manifold. Open the valve on top of the gas tank you want your solution overlaid with by turning it to the left. For most purposes, choose pure nitrogen. Adjust the diaphragm on the tank you turned on so that it's producing about 1 psi of pressure. Open the valves above each of the tubes you've attached to the manifold. Because the vacuum is on and the manifold is set to connect the vacuum to the tubes, gas should be drawn out of the tubes and the liquid they contain as soon as you open the valves. You may see small bubbles form in the liquid. Allow the tubes to sit under vacuum for at least 2 minutes, but up to 5 minutes for larger volumes. The length of time that you leave tubes under vacuum during this process may take some fine-tuning for your specific system. 2 minutes is often sufficient, but the longer you wait, the more oxygen can be removed from larger volumes. In contrast, holding tubes under vacuum for too long can remove labile groups from compounds, such as the sulfhydryl group from cysteine. After tubes have been held under vacuum for your selected time, turn the valve on the manifold labeled vac and gas to be set to gas. You should see the nitrogen dimple the liquid on top of the tubes when you switch the valve and hear a change in pressure. Leave the valve in this position for 30 seconds to fill your tubes with gas, then switch back to vacuum. Leave the valve on vacuum for your chosen time, then switch back to gas again for another 30 seconds. Again, switch to vacuum for your chosen time, then switch back to gas again for another 30 seconds, for 3 total cycles of vacuum and gas. After this third time, turn off the vacuum pump by flipping the switch and turn the valve on top of the nitrogen tank off by turning to the right. There will still be pressure in the lines. Next, open the valve on the manifold so the manifold is open to the outside air, releasing the pressure in the lines. Turn this valve back and forth until you can't hear gas being released. Don't leave it open longer than necessary. Finally, pull one of your tubes off of the needle it's attached to, leaving the valve open. This will release additional pressure in the system and in the tubes. To best gauge whether there's still pressure, set your hand or a hair on your arm near the needle and feel whether gas is still coming out. There's still pressure in the tube you pulled off, so put it back on the needle and pull another tube off to let the pressure in the first tube vent as well. If you didn't use every needle, you can instead simply open the valve on an unused needle. Only keep the tube off the needle with the valve open until the pressure is almost equalized. Then either put the tube back on the needle or turn the valve off. As soon as you cannot hear or feel gas release, close the system. If left open longer, oxygen will make its way back into the system and undo all of the work you just did. Turn the valves off above all of your tubes and then remove them from the gas manifold. Remember to cap the needles carefully when you are done. Hungate tubes can be covered with a green plastic cap or serum bottles covered with foil before autoclaving.